Why are we called Negroes? Why are we deaf, dumb, and blind? Why is everybody making progress, yet we seem to be lagging so far behind? Why are we mistreated? Why are we in this condition? Stripped of our name, our language, our culture, our God, and our religion. Here in America, all of our religious training has been gotten by the preacher. He has told us of a heaven way up in the sky that we can't enjoy now, but rather after we die.
Here we are once again.
Yes, we are.
First of all, I want to first start off in the most holy name of Allah, always bearing witness that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. I would like to greet you all in the beautiful greeting words of peace in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Walaikum
And that
salam.
just simply means peace be unto you. Listen, I'm in my humble state right now because this brother don't know how much he means to me. Well, he's going to know today. Um, and I just want to allow you all to get the opportunity to please like, please share.
Copy the URL, share it with as many people as you can here tonight.
And I'm telling you, if you don't, this will be a detriment if you do not share this, because this show will pretty much turn your life around. I guarantee you.
Join
This
the
brother
live.
has, if in the Allah's will, it will turn your life around. And I think this brother, from the bottom of my heart, he has no idea. I'm like all the way in the back corner, just marveling over this brother right now. He's like, I don't know you, sister. I have no idea of who you are, but he's gonna know who I am today.
We got to bring him down to Florida.
Yeah,
again. We're gonna talk about that, Sister Khalid.
yes. So please stay tuned. But I am not going to belabor this introduction at all. I'm going to turn the floor directly to you, Brother Tony. The floor is yours.
All praise is due to Allah. Beloved family, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness Muhammad is messenger and servant. I'd like to greet you in the greeting words of peace. We say it as Muslims, Assalamu alaikum, but to our general audience, Frida Land, Hotep, Abaragani, Buenas noches, Sak Pase. Greetings in all of the beautiful languages that our people speak. Welcome to Thursday Night Talks, which is spearheaded by the 7th Region Coalition to help save lives. We were assembled by our student regional minister, Student Minister Patrick Muhammad, soon after the criterion message of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, which is now almost 5 years. It took place July 4th, 2020. We were put together to warn our people about experiments passed off as vaccines. We were guiding our people to more therapeutic, natural remedies. We were decoding farces, if you will, that our open enemy was steering in our direction, but we were guiding our people to the truth through this podcast, through other initiatives that we were involved in. And we're still involved in those initiatives through the 9 ministries given to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the midst of the 2005 Millions More movement. These are 9 ministries that are all geared towards saving lives. We do not have to be registered members of the Nation of Islam to partake in these ministries. All of these ministries are serving to unite our people. All of these ministries are oriented towards saving lives, finding our purpose in life, which is part of the process of saving lives. The Ministry of Education is what we're focusing on here tonight. The Ministry of Education is responsible for the mental and moral development of the members of the society by means of formal instruction in a prescribed manner over a prescribed period of time in a system of learning ranging from preschool through primary through advanced academic levels, culminating in the conferring of academic degrees under the direction of a National Board of Education. In addition to academic instruction, students shall receive teaching and training in the way of righteous conduct, decency, and self-respect with the goal of making a better nation of people. And with that, the brother who will be introducing our beloved brother here tonight, he is a pioneer in the field of education, who's worked with so many that we personally know in common. And it's as I said, it's a high honor just to be in his virtual presence. Although I've met the brother physically, I had the pleasure of meeting him multiple years ago. But as I said, Sister Kalila, we're going to bring our brother back here to the state of Florida. Brother Mark, I turn it over to you.
Yes, sir. All praise is due to Allah. Assalamu alaikum. In the name of Allah, the Omniscient, the Merciful. Our guest tonight,
Come on.
Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, was born in New York Hospital on Monday, November 16th, 1953. Since 2011, Kaba Hiawatha has starred in several critically acclaimed documentaries, such as Tariq Nasheed's Hidden Colors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1804, The Hidden History of the Haitian Revolution. Additionally, he is the featured narrator in the hit documentary Out of Darkness and Heavy is the Crown by Amadeus Christ, as well as starring in Elementary Genocide, Black Friday 1 and 2, Damon Dash's The Secret to Ballin' with Snoop Dogg, Ice-T, Wu-Tang Clan, Faith Evans, Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, and other entertainment. Kaba Hiawatha's voice, speeches, writings, and narrations have been performed in independent productions. Neruvian Doom by Nehru and Doom titled Om. He is also the featured writer and performer on Wu-Tang Clan's EP, The Saga Continues, track Message. He collaborated with Kashe Music on his own 2 EPs titled From Chaos to Order and Mi Amores. Kaba Hiawatha received his bachelor's degree in international politics from New York University with a minor in Caribbean studies, June 77. He earned his first master's of art in world history from Hunter College, New York, June 87. And he received his second master's of science in educational administration and supervision from City College of New York, February 88. Kaba Hiawatha has been a Pan-African, African-centered educator, consultant, administrator, staff developer, and curriculum writer for over 40 years. He has taught every grade level, pre-K to 12, in the New York City Department of Education for over 31 years, from October 79 to July 2009, and has been a college professor in the Black Studies Department at the State University of New York at New Paltz for 12 years, from fall 2004 to spring 2016. Over Kaba Hiawatha's long career in education, he has consulted with many boards of education, schools, communities, parents, and student groups. His greatest experiences have been his many classroom visitations around the world and implementing successful strategies in the teaching learning process. He is firmly dedicated to the belief that culture plays a vitally important role in education, and he credits many of his academic views to his teacher, world-renowned educator, Professor John Heinrich Clarke. Kaba Hiawatha is the creator, principal facilitator, and chief executive officer of the African-Centered Science Academy, Per Ankh, Temple House of Life. The Per Ankh is now a feature in the Kemetic Wisdom School at www.shockmetaphysics.com. You can get his free e-course and study guide at www.kabakamenei.com. Kaba Hiawatha has written many educational curricular guides and collaborated with teams in the creation of many study guides. He co-authored a book titled Mi Amor with Kosh Music, and he has authored a biography on the architect of Americans African Studies program honoring William Leo Hansberry. Kaba Hiawatha lives in New York with his wife, Sharon, of 37 years. And they have two daughters, Sasha Madeline, Candace Deanna, and one son, Heru. Their children have followed in their parents' footsteps and work in fields that serve humanity and the community. Kaba Hiawatha Kamene's motto is no distractions. Keep on keeping on. It ain't over till we win. Bring to the Thursday night talks our dear brother, Kaba Hiawatha Kamene. Bring him on, bring him on, bring him on.
Here's our brother.
Peace. Assalamu alaikum, family.
Walaikum salam.
And as you said, my brother Tony, in all the languages that we speak, Jambo and all of the languages, we bring greetings.
Yes.
And I thank you for this invitation to be able to speak to our community and to our family on this very important topic right now, particularly where we are historically in the world today.
Yes.
So I've been looking forward to this conversation so that we can share some vital information as it relates to how we can educate our children and our community for the 21st century.
Beautiful. Well, we're going to get right into it, brother. Basically, as I was exploring one of your books, the book titled Spirituality Before Religion, a quote that you quoted in your book by Dr. John Henry Clarke. He stated that to be self-sufficient, people have to see the Creator when they look in the mirror. If not, they will never have a healthy self. Excuse me. I'm so nervous in front of you. I'm sorry. You have no idea.
You're saying the Mosque, Sister Khalila.
Right. Take your time. Right. And I normally don't get nervous that much, but I'm going to say it again. If not, they will never have a healthy self analysis of themselves. I'm just paraphrasing. He also reminded us that anytime you turn on your own conception of God, you are no longer free, a free man or a free woman. No need to put the chains on your body because the chains are in your mind. Can you expound on the current climate and mental chains that our community still have bonded to them? In addition to, how can we be free from these chains of this wicked society?
Well, the one thing that I believe, my sister Khalila, and to my brother Mark X and to brother Tony Muhammad
Yes, sir.
is that we have to have mercy on ourselves
Mm.
as a people.
Mhm.
We have to forgive ourselves, our transgressions, accept them, embrace them, own them in order for us to be able to go on. The real story of what has happened to us as a people has been told, but it hasn't been emphasized, particularly for our children. Because one of the things that we don't realize is that from the cradle to our grave, we have been put in a most horrible maafa, a Kiswahili word that means a terroristic disaster.
Mm.
If there's anyone that understands terror, it's us.
That's right.
And it's almost to a point where it's an epigenetic tag in us that we're born in it. The great psychologist, Dr. Amos Wilson, he once said that at around the age of 3 or 4 is where children of African descent begin to realize that there's a difference, the way in which people treat others and the way they treat Black people.
Mhm.
And this, because of my experience, not only having my own children, but being an educator, as was said in the introduction by Brother Mark X, I've taught every grade, I've taught every subject. And I purposely did that. I told people, I tell people now that there was a purpose behind what I did. I stayed in the same community, South Central Bronx. I moved around visiting schools, teaching different classrooms, doing staff development. I've traveled around the country, I've traveled around the world, and I've been in classrooms around the world. And the reality of it is that what we face as a people is that we don't quite understand how great we really are.
Mm.
And that's what I mean when I say no distractions. We don't realize that everything, as horrible as it was, that could be thrown to a human being, that could a person be put through as a human being, was thrown at us.
Mm.
And we lived in it. And the reality of it is that not only did we live in it, but we overcame it. And so while I understand the reason to look at what has happened to us, I also encourage us that the most important emotion we should have is to be able to celebrate that we're still here.
Mm.
For a Black person in America, if you wake up in the morning, you are already winning.
Wow.
Come on, brother.
Wow.
That's just something to think about as a person. I don't care where you are in the station of your life. I don't care if you are the president of the United States, a Supreme Court judge, a computer analyst, a FedEx worker, or if you stand on the corner waiting for the light to turn red so you can bring your cup over to my car to ask me for a little bit of something to put in there. If you're alive in 2025,
Come on, beloved.
you are a miracle, and you need to celebrate. And that's what I tell folk. When I go into a restaurant and I'm going to get a cup of coffee or something like that, and they open the door for me, and then I say I'll catch you on my way out, because that's when I'm going to have my change. And I give them, most of the time I give them $1, and I just stop to talk to them, to let them know how great you are.
Mm.
The fact that you're still alive. I don't care if you're trying to open up the door and get $1 or change from somebody. If you are Black in America, for what has happened to us as a people, historically, when you study our history, what we have been through, if you're still alive in 2025, you are a miracle.
Wow.
My God.
That's right.
And that is something that we all should recognize. And we as men should realize the greatness of our mothers and our women who have gone through this process. And no matter what, and again, because I've worked in the school system, many of the parents I've dealt with have been mothers. They've been grandmothers. I have been able to interact with fathers, but for the most part, they're women. And they are the ones that keep the family unit together at all costs. And that is our history from the very beginning of our being stolen from our land to this very day.
Yes, sir.
And it's just something that I think we should start with, so that in going back to Dr. John Henry Clark and your original question, my sister Khalil, when I first met Dr. Clark, I was 12 and a half years old. It was in Harlem. Old heads, we call them old heads. The older brothers and sisters, maybe 17, 18, 19, bringing the young brothers and sisters, they put us on the handlebars of their bikes and would drive up to Harlem to any type of cultural thing. My name, Booker T, they automatically assumed I was somehow culturally grounded. I say, hey, Booker T, come over here, man. We got someplace to go. And when I was 12 and a half, they brought us up to Harlem. And that is my first exposure to Professor John Henry Clark. And at the end of his presentation, there was about 5 or 6 of us that were young compared to the old heads. And they brought us up to meet Professor Clark. And he gave us a homework assignment. And this homework assignment is what I give everybody. I'm going to give this to the folk that are in tune tonight. This is a homework assignment. Okay, I'm a teacher. I got to give everybody homework.
Yes.
I can't help it. It's something that you got to do beyond what we're doing here in class. And he told us to go into the bathroom and look in the mirror and tell the person that we're looking at, I love you, and mean it. Because if you can't do that, there is nothing anyone else can do for you. And that goes back to your question. Because in all of the holy books that I've read, I grew up Roman Catholic. I was exposed to, and again, the old head used to bring us up to the mosque on 116th Street. And so we were exposed to the Nation of Islam at its younger years. And the concept that we're all dealing with is the fact that if you can't look in the mirror, because in all the holy books that I have read, whether it is the Old Testament, the New Testament, the 5 books of Moses, or the Quran, or the Rig Veda, or whatever the book is, the holy book is, from agnostic to Zoroastrianism, from A to Z. Every one of them tells you that the Creator created each and every one of us in her image.
Yes, sir.
So when I'm looking in the mirror, I'm looking at my image. And when I'm looking at my image, I'm looking at me. So when the Creator looks at himself, he sees Sister Khalila Muhammad. She sees Brother Mark X. She sees Tony Muhammad. He sees Kaba Hiawatha Kamene. I purposely am dealing with a male-female balance as it relates to the Creator and who we are as a people. Because if the Creator did create us in the image of the Creator, when a woman looks in the mirror, she should be seeing herself.
Right.
That's right.
It's just a sense of balance as who we are as a people. And if you can look in the mirror, because I remember there was a commercial it was really a commercial like in the magazine where it showed a young African-American boy looking in the mirror and seeing a white Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I seen
I remember that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, now you know there's a problem there.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so when you look in the mirror and you're looking at your image, if you don't see you, then you don't have to put chains on you physically because you're already mentally enslaved. And this is one of the messages that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us.
Yes.
I remember hearing from the community the things that he would say. And I remember the concepts that would come from that point, and I would encourage everybody right now, when you're looking at what's going on all around here and you don't want no distractions, I just tell you, read the book that's titled The Fall of America.
That's right.
By the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
That's
Yes.
right.
No matter what your religion is, it doesn't make a
Right.
difference to me what your religion is because, see, we're all one.
That's right.
We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And the expression in which we decide to do that becomes the religions that we belong to. But in my book, Spirituality Before Religions, I purposely made it so that there was no religion that was identified. There was no religion that was insulted. There was nobody. I wasn't trying to push any concept except for the fact that whatever you are, I can show you your scripture in Africa.
That's right.
I bear witness.
And it's so important for us to just understand this and come together. You know, I remember when Minister Louis Farrakhan at one of the Savior's Day talked about creating these ministries.
Right.
And I believe it was the ministries that you were speaking of. And now with our ancestor, Professor Neely Fuller, in his book on the compensatory code of white supremacy, he identifies 9 areas. That could be umbrella areas for us all to see how we can do this. Now, I add a 10th. Because although I know that Professor Neely Fuller included it in the book, I felt it was so important that it should be one of the areas. So I've got 10 areas, and I asked permission that I be able to include that 10th area. And I have the acronym. It's called REL, CEL, WEP. That's how I remember the 9 areas that Neely Fuller told us. REL, CEL, WEP. One was religion. The first E was economics, and the first L was labor. REL, religion, economics, labor. I hire my son to work with me. My son is with me here now. We work together. He's my business manager. Dr. Amos Wilson used to always say, why should our children respect us if every time they need to get something they need, they go to someone else?
Come on, beloved.
Why? Why? You know, because the most important things, whether it be a job or whether it be whatever, they always go to someone else.
Right.
Right.
We have to hire our own.
That's right.
Okay. When I go back to New York, my grandson works with me. I hire my own. When my grandson's mother was young, she worked with me. Our second daughter, I hired them. That's how they became so good in math. Because I used to pay them 15% of everything, you know, from in those days, they were video cassettes and audio cassettes, long before the CD and DVD. I used to pay them 15% of everything that they made. That's how they got good in math. Our older daughter is into banking because she was trying to figure out that 15%. You know, but we hire our own. That's what labor is. You hire your own people. And I'm not even going to say unashamedly and unapologetically, because in doing that, I have nothing to be ashamed of and I have nothing to apologize for because everybody else doing it.
Right.
See, Brother Kaba.
Yes, ma'am.
But in you answering Sister Kalila's initial question about seeing God in our image and likeness, and setting a strong foundation for our children and leaving a legacy for our children, how is that related? And to the title of this program tonight, Before the Beginning Began. Is it related, Brother Kaba?
Yes, because before the beginning began, we were all together. I think of it being in an ocean, and each of us are drops of water.
Come on.
What part of the ocean isn't in the drop of water, and what part of the drop of water isn't the ocean?
Come on.
Right now, we're all in a plasma. We are all living in an ethereal water, in a spiritual water. We are in a spiritual ocean. And each of us is a drop of water. Everyone that's online listening to this program, we're all in the same ocean. In science, it's called the universe.
That's right.
And we're all in it. But we are all separate in that we are a drop of water within that ocean. And so before the beginning began, the question is that energy cannot be created, nor can it be destroyed.
Right.
We have always been. At some anointed time, at some appointed time, our mommy and daddy came together and we were brought into existence. In many ways, it's believed that when we were born, our spirit died. and it was encased in our tomb that we call a body.
Mm.
And that when we die, we are released from that tomb called the body, and we return back to where we come. To African people, as I've studied the Orishas of West Africa, I've studied the Neteru of East Africa, I've studied the spiritual systems of Central and Southern Africa. Iliana is what the Khoisan had, and the Twa Mbuti people, the first family of the human family, came out of Central Southern Africa, and the idea that you have Iliana, which is which is the vibrant energy. It's the spirit that animates all things. You know, like right now, you see me raise my hand. Well, my hand is physical, but what was it that raised it? You can't see. That's the spirit. That's what animates us. When we smile, when we laugh, when we dance, when we do whatever we do, my hand's moving like this. This is the physicalness of it. But within me is Iliana, which is the great animating of the matter of the fact. And Iliana is the spirit of the fact. And this is who we are as a people. And we have existed before. Do you know that when you think about the concept of our ancestors, when you think of our ancestors, you wonder, okay, how many ancestors we have? Now I'm going to give you the math of this because I want science. See, family, I believe we can shut down rooms when we get into science.
Right.
And when I say science, I'm talking about knowledge. Science comes from the word scient, which means knowledge. We've pigeonholed it in things that we say is biology and astronomy and oceanography. But science is all knowledge, not just a segment of the knowledge. The mathematical equation I want to give you is x equals 2 to the n power. 2 to the n, x equals 2 to the nth power.
Okay.
X equals how many ancestors you have. And n equals the particular generation that you're identifying. So x equals 2 to the first power. That's your parents. X equals 2 to the first power, x equals 2. You have 2 parents. Your grandparents. You have x equals 2 to the second power, because that's your second generation. You're going back.
Right.
2 times 2 equals 4. You have 4 grandparents. Now let's go to your great grandparents. X equals 2 to the third power.
Beautiful.
Which means 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. Now, before I drop this on you, I want to tell you that every one of your ancestors has the same amount of ancestors that they're giving to you. So what you're going to work out mathematically with my equation is your direct ancestors. But you also have indirect ancestors through your direct ancestors.
Yes.
Okay. Now let me give you x equals 2 to the 20th power, which is 20 generations. And let's say that every generation is 25 years. So if I take you back 20 generations at 25 per generation, that equals 500 years.
Yes, sir.
Which also equals the fact that if I take you back 500 years, you work out how many ancestors, direct and indirect, you have. And that's how many people dwell within you. So if I took you back to the year 1525, which is 500 years ago, the question is, how many ancestors came into existence to bring you into existence, Sister Kalima? Or you, Brother Mark, or you, Brother Tony, or me, or anyone else listening? How many ancestors? I'm talking science now. This is math. I gave you the math for it. X equals 2 to the 20th power. X equals 1,048,576 human beings.
My God.
Think of how many people dwell within you. Think of how many ancestors you have. Think of how many people you walk with. And then look at our ancestors on the plantation that knew this. They may not have been literate in certain areas, but they knew their ancestors. and they knew how to call upon them within.
Wow.
This is real. This is real. This ain't make believe. But now, honestly, I just took you back 500 years, and you have 1,048,576 human beings.
My God.
What happens if I take you back 5 million years?
Come on.
Like-
Come on.
Oh. Oh my God.
And look at us just thinking about ourselves.
Yeah.
Out
And
there.
parents and grandparents.
Come on.
How many do you have if I took you back 5? And you see, the equation is called exponential expansion equation. So every time you go back, it multiplies itself more and
Exactly.
more and more. Now, let me tell you something else. When you go back far enough to before the beginning began, and you think about that ancestor, when all those millions and billions of ancestors that exist, you only have one ancestor. That's the creator.
Mhm.
In Islam, Allah. Oludumare. Amen. However you call the creator, whatever you want to call that creator.
Mm.
Of all of the billions of creations that has been created by the creator, you only have one. When you go back far enough, there's only one, because we all come from that ocean where the creator dwells, the spirit.
Yes, sir.
Ileana, the energizing animator. But now here's another concept to look at as it relates to before the beginning began. Before the beginning began, as it relates to our parents that brought us into existence. Men, males, have millions of spermatozoon. Spermatozoon is the singular word for the plural, which is spermatozoa.
Yes, sir.
Millions, and some people say billions. Think of all the eggs that a woman has. All the eggs that the woman has. Think of all of the spermatozoon that stepped aside for that one spermatozoon to fertilize that egg. Think of all of the millions of eggs that the woman had, that one egg said, this spermatozoon is mine. And here we have Sister Kalila, Brother Mark, Brother Tony, Brother Kaba, Minister Louis Farrakhan, Elijah Muhammad. Think of that. Think of all of the spermatozoon that stepped aside, that realized that you had a divine purpose on the planet. And think of all the eggs that stepped aside and said, no, it's that egg's time.
Wow.
Think of the dynamics of who you are. I don't care where you are in your station of life. You're a sacred being. And you were chosen to do something. And education is meant to facilitate a person to find their divine gift. Each and every one of us was given a divine gift. We have a divine purpose. That was decided before we were even conceived. That's why the spermatozoon stepped aside and the egg stepped aside, because that spermatozoon and that egg, in whatever multiplication, because we got twins and we got triplets and all of that. But the concept is the same. They all stepped aside in order for you to come into existence. Out of that long line of the millions of ancestors that each one of those spermatozoon and eggs represented. Before the beginning began, your life was planned.
That's right.
And it's something that, and also to my sisters, our sacred women, our sacred mothers, our sacred sisters, when your grandmother was born, she was born with all of the eggs that she would ever produce.
Wow.
So that means that when your grandmother was born, your mother's egg was in her.
Come on.
But also, the daughter's egg, the granddaughter of the grandmother that was just born, her egg was in the mother because the mother was in the grandma. So that's why scientifically you've always existed.
Mm.
And in every one of those ancestors that we talked about, going back 5 million years, you were already there.
You're already there.
Yes, sir.
You were just getting ready to come into existence.
Wow.
We're talking science here.
Yes,
We're
sir.
not in the twilight zone.
Come on. Come on.
This is
Brother
real.
Kaba.
This is why Black folk don't believe in God. They don't have faith in God. They know God.
Mm.
Come on.
They know God. And this was the surety that our ancestors on the plantation had when they were going through that terroristic disaster. They knew that somebody was going to be free down the road. And here we sit this evening talking to each other. When our ancestors in 1525 were saying there's a better thing that can happen here. When our ancestors on the plantation were struggling and they were manifesting their reality, they manifested us.
That's right.
They brought us into existence in their desire. So what I ask us as a people, where do you want to see our children in the year 2125?
Mm.
We need a 100-year plan with the idea of another 100-year plan down the road.
Come on, beloved.
Where do we see ourselves? No distractions. See, these distractions is what makes us have to deal with what's right in front of us, which we should do. But what's right in front of us to deal with is what's going to get us 100 years from now.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
The work that we're doing right now, there will be children that will never have been in our presence that will recognize that there were 5 people wanted to do something serious for them. Just as we look back on our ancestors and we praise them for all they did for us, it's the same with us.
That's right.
Before the beginning began, what was the plan?
Awesome.
Brother Kaba. Oh, sorry. Brother Kaba.
Please, Sister Kaba.
Yes.
Please.
First, listen. I know you said no distractions.
Come
but
on.
while you was talking, I was fighting this fight because Facebook.
Right. We were both you and I
we were
very,
under attack.
right.
And I just had to slay somebody for these teachings. And I just had to put it out there in the atmosphere. Whoever was on Facebook, y'all get back on. It's now working. If you cannot get back on Facebook, please tune in to our YouTube channel as well. Let me tell you something. We have no idea that we are under attack. These teachings are life. Okay? These teachings will give you life. These teachings are giving life right now. And the enemy knows that these teachings are the way that the 100 years that our brother Kaba is talking about, this plan that he's talking about, this blueprint that he's talking about, the enemy do not want us to know about any of this. So please like, share, get as many people on here because again, this is not our platform. We are still under the tutelage and under the hands of our open enemy. Like and share this.
Whenever the enemy wants to see whenever the enemy sees our unity, I'm gonna say this is when in us inviting Brother Kaba onto the program, we should expect issues like this.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't want our unity. The more divided we are, Brother Kaba, you've taught about this when in the history of the Moors. Whenever we've been divided, the enemy has gained ground. Mm-hmm. But whenever we've been united and the enemy has been divided, we gain ground. So this is a time that we have to huddle up and unite more so than ever before.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Brother Kaba, we are the prayers of our ancestors fulfilled.
Yes, we are.
And what do we look like being divided over petty differences? We know where we may differ, but there's so many other things.
Mhm.
So many other things that we could come together in unity about. In unity, tonight we're speaking about education, which our children are in a state of peril, beloved, because they have been and continue to be miseducated. I'm in the classroom myself. I'm in the battlefield right now. I work both at a public school and private school, and I teach my children. You know, I call them my children.
They are.
Every opportunity I can. And so, Brother Kaba, speaking about this, beloved, here in Florida, you are no stranger to Florida. If
Right.
you could give us a bit of history about your extensive work, particularly in Broward County and other places of Florida, if you've worked in other parts of Florida, I know that you did something recently in Jacksonville,
Yes.
in the area of Black Studies in Broward County. You worked very personally with Dr. Asa Hilliard. I still love Dr. Hilliard. We were in a workshop together, and me and him bonded. We already knew each other before, but like the way we bonded with one another, teachers were coming around asking me, "Are you two related?" And Dr. Hilliard said, "No, but we are kindred spirits."
Mm.
If you could expound on the work that you've done here in Florida, my brother.
Well, in Florida, I was invited back in the late 80s to come down to Broward County and assist them in developing their cultural program. And Dr. Asa Hilliard, Nana before Amantwakia, was also invited. And he was invited to work with the administrators, principals, and others. And I was invited to work with the teachers. And I brought my curriculum down that I developed. Right now, it's on my website. It's called the Kamerican. It came from the work I had done in 83 and 87, studying in Kemet, Egypt. In 1984, I went to Mexico with Dr. Ivan Van Sertima.
Oh, wow.
And we studied there. And what I wanted to do was to develop a guide to teach Kemetic history and American history. It's called the Kamerican. And my work in Broward County is exactly what the governor down there dismantled.
Mm.
That's my curriculum.
Wow. Wow.
And if I were him, I would have dismantled it too, because of the responses I got from the teachers. Because, I mean, we were there from 89 to about 93, 94. We were going down frequently to work. And of course, Dr. Hilliard was working with the administrators. And of course, I was, as far as I'm concerned, I was studying under him. You know, a lot of respect for my brother. And so that becomes very important to me to understand that we used to meet every day in the Days Inn when we were there together. And we would discuss what we were doing that day and that time that we were in Broward County. And when there were times that we'd all be together, and the superintendent of schools of Broward would be there, the director of multicultural education, the director of social studies, that was all there. And they say, you know, the administrators and teachers talk to us like they almost think that you meet together and discuss what you're going to do. And you see, you should see Dr. Hilliard's face was like, you know, he was just, okay. You know, but we never let anybody know that we met every morning at the Days Inn and discussed what we were going to do. And he fine-tuned what I was to do, how to approach it, because he was an educational psychologist.
Yes, sir.
And so the curriculum that I've developed, I've worked with Dr. Frances Cresswell-Singh, because she's a child clinical psychiatrist. She was.
Yes,
She
sir.
still is, as far as I'm concerned. But I work with her in terms of fine tuning my curriculum.
Mm.
I work with, I used to meet with Dr. Amos Wilson because he taught at a place called Hostos College that was right south of where I was teaching in the Bronx. And we used to meet in a diner on a corner of 149th Street and 3rd Avenue, the hub of the South Bronx. And we would discuss. Part of his book, Blueprint for Black Power, has touches of my experiences that I spoke to him about. Because, see, my thing with a lot of the psychologists and psychiatrists that were conscious of what needed to be done, such as Dr. Asa Hilliard, even Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Francis Gershwell, is I was in the classroom. So I could field test what they were telling me.
Mm.
So like when you study ancient African education,
Come on, beloved.
you had two distinct groups. You had the theist, who was the theoretician. The theoretician was the one that researched information.
Mhm.
And then you had the Gnostic. See, these words come to us through Roman and Greek, but these were the African things that they studied with the Cushites. The Gnostics were the teachers. So the theist would take the theories that they had developed about education, studying the brain and things like that, and they would give it to the practitioner. The practitioner would go into the classroom and teach, and then report back to the theist what their findings were. When the Romans wanted to destroy the Greeks, when they wanted to usurp the information and say it was them,
Right.
they forbid them from teaching. They forbid them, and they ostracized them, and they made them horrible people, and they made them people that no one should listen to. And if you do, we're going to take care of you. We're going to crucify you. So they put a letter in front of the theist and the Gnostic. They put the letter A.
Mm.
So the theist became an atheist.
Mm.
Gnostic
Mm.
became an agnostic.
Wow.
And that's why they're shunned to this day. But these were the actual spiritual, what's called the Magi, the keepers of your cultural legacy.
Mm.
And that's what's happening to educators today.
Right.
Mm.
They're making you shun the educator. And they'll punish you if you listen to the educator. And quite frankly, if I were them, I would do the same thing.
Yes, sir.
I would not want our people to know how great they are.
Right.
Mm.
And not only what they achieved, but what they have yet to achieve.
Mm.
Children ask me, they say, well, back in the day before I corrected my name to Kaba, my name was Booker T. Coleman.
Yes, sir.
And the children would say, well, Brother Booker T, and later in my life, after 2002, Brother Kaba, they would say, why do I need to know all this ancient history?
Mm.
Why are you going to take me back there? What good is it for me?
Mm.
Mm.
And I like that question.
Yeah.
Because I would say, well, let me tell it to you another way. Let me tell it to you the tale of the slingshot.
Mm.
You have a slingshot, right?
Come on. Yes, sir.
And then you pull it back.
Uh-huh.
And you have a projectile. And I would ask the children, what's the purpose of the slingshot?
Mm.
Is it to take you back here?
Mm.
They say no. I said, well, what's the purpose of it? It's to propel it in front of you.
Mm.
And I say, well, if I take you back this far, you'll go a certain distance. Suppose I pull you back further.
Mm.
You go further in front of you. So what I was explaining to them is that if I could take your mind and put it in an educational slingshot, and if I could pull you back, the further back I take you, the further in the future I can propel you.
Mm.
Come on now. Come on.
That's why you need to know your history.
Beautiful, beautiful.
As Dr. Wade Nobles tells us, culture is to a human as water is to a fish.
Mm.
Your whole, whole perception of your existence comes out of your culture. It is a cultural common sense. And everywhere we go, we bring that culture with us.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
The way
Well,
we walk, the way we talk, the way we do our thing, make no difference. You from Jamaica, Puerto Rico, Mexico. Makes no difference if you're living in Holland or if you're living in UK or if you're Chicago, Arkansas, Los Angeles, or South Central Bronx.
yes, sir.
You bring a swag, a flavor.
That's right.
And not only does your culture bring a flavor, but you bring a flavor of the flavor. All chocolate ice cream don't taste alike. All strawberry ice cream don't take alike. It has its own flavor,
Right.
but it all tastes good. So it's not that one better than the other. They all taste good.
Brother Kaba, to take us further, I wanted to look into your motto that I read earlier when I introduced you. It says your motto is that no distractions, keep on keeping on.
Yes.
It ain't over till we win.
Yes.
Now, to clarify the objective, what does winning look like to you?
Winning means you look in the mirror and tell yourself that you love yourself.
Come on, beloved.
Because then after you win, now you're going to fulfill your destiny.
Come on.
You see, winning ain't the object.
Okay.
Life doesn't have a destination. Life is a journey. And it's not until you join the ancestors and the creator that you know what your destiny was. Because you're always heading towards it. There's no end. Dr. John Henry Clark used to always say to me when I would talk to him, he said, always perfect your craft. No matter how old you are, no matter where you are and what you do, always know you can always be better tomorrow than you were today.
That's right.
Wow.
Perfect your craft. The other thing that he told me, besides looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, and besides saying, perfect your craft, he said, never present yourself before your people unprepared. Always be prepared.
Be prepared.
So when we win, what we're doing is we're actually actualizing our existence and why that spermatozoon and that egg came together in the first place. What happens is that we were born for a specific reason. There's something that each and every one of us was born to do to contribute to the world community. There are people born to try to make you not reach that. Your job is to make sure they fail.
Right.
So see, we're not going to blame other people for the condition I find myself in.
Right.
I understand how I got here. I understand the trickery. I understand all the things that happen. But if you blame somebody else for the condition you find yourself in, you give them the power to get you out of that position, but you also give them the power to keep you in. You know, when you're dealing with algebra, you're dealing with the unknown.
Come on.
That's right.
You're dealing with variables.
Mm-hmm.
And only the variables can and will solve your problem. White folk ain't a variable in my problem. So therefore, you have no right to speak. I didn't include you. I didn't blame you. The only time you stop reaching your divine destiny is when you stop reaching for your divine destiny. Obstacles are going to be there. I've known people that have been given very bad hands. Let's say that when you're born, you're given a set of cards to play. And I know people that got a very bad hand. And I know people got a very good hand. I've known people that got a very bad hand that won the game. I know people that got a very good hand and they lost the game. So I've come to realize it's not the cards you dealt with that matter. It's how you play the game.
That's right.
And that's life. We must make this happen. And this is why my son Haru and I are going on the road in 2026 to develop our schools. I'm going to be going into areas that have bookstores. Here in Detroit, I've been brought in for the African Liberation Day tomorrow, and they have an Al Kibulan organization here, a phenomenal group of people. And I'm going to introduce this concept to them.
Mm.
I've got 12 books that I've written. 3 of them is a cultural curriculum. 2 of them are children's books. 2 of them is Black Panther Code. And 5 of them are just books to center a person in their life, from Professor William Leo Hansberry, Spirituality Before Religions, Shabaka Stone, Carbon Before Melanin, and the book I'm now finishing up now is called The Moors Before the Moors, because we got to think about the Moors. But we got to understand who the Moors were. Who were the Moors before they were Moors? Because that's just a term. Before they were called Moors, they were called Ethiopians. After they were called the Moors, they were called Negroes. And so the terms that we used for ourselves weren't terms we called ourselves.
Wow.
Even if you look at the N-word, I have a number of presentations I've done on the origin of the N-word. The N-word is not a bad word. And I always begin by talking about the swastika. There was a woman by the name of Helene Blavatsky. She was a Russian.
Yes, sir.
And she was impacted by a Black man by the name of Pascal Beverly. Now that's another brother you got to check out.
Yes, sir.
Pascal Randolph Beverly.
Yes, sir.
Born in New York, Black man. He was the person that brought Rosicrucianism to the United States and Europe.
Yes, sir.
Pascal Randolph Beverly was the one, this whole concept that we have of mysticism. He was the one that brought fruition to it. And so Helene Blavatsky was influenced by Pascal Beverly, and she went to the East, and she studied in Tibet, and she studied Buddhism and things like that. And she brought back symbols that had come from Africa, by the way, that went east with the Kushites that went into India and went into this part of the world, and they had a symbol. And it represented, in science, it represented an elliptical galaxy. When you go to different places, like in Asia, you have, it was curved and it became a yin and yang symbol. It represented the duality of both male and female energy in the cosmic universe. It meant a lot of different things. And she brought it back into Europe. And there was this non-significant military man that looked at it, and he climbed the ranks, and he emblazoned this symbol on the flags and on the clothing and all these different things. And different things were done to different people, and it was impacted. And so what was once a beautiful sign that meant something beautiful was dirtied by a demon.
Wow.
And so the beauty that was once held by that symbol,
Right.
you couldn't even go and put it on a board today.
No.
For what it represents as he did things with it.
That's right.
And that's what happened with the N-word. The N-word was a word that came out of Africa. It was negus. You see, in language, it's not so much the letters. See, that's what the Greeks did. The Greeks distracted us by making us get caught up in letters. In reality, it's the sounds. Sounds. And so our ancestors, in developing their language, they created a sound, ngr, ngr, ngr. And that was a beautiful sound. That's why the N follows the M. It's the 13th and 14th letter of the alphabet. Ngr became something that brought forward joy, brought forward a sense of power. And in Ethiopia, you had negus negusti.
Mm.
Nga. In India, you have Naga.
Mm.
When you go to West Africa, you have Nigeria.
Mm.
You have Ndingo. Remember, man, dingo, ngo. So you have the sound, Nga. So when the Romans came down and asked these powerful Ethiopians, who were the most blessed of people on the planet, both male and female, they said, well, who are you? They said, we negus negusti. And so the Romans took that word Ngar and they put it in their vocabulary.
Mm.
It's called nation state. When you take something from another nation and put it into your state, it becomes a nation state. So you borrow that word and put it in your language.
Mm.
And then out of Ungar came Negro, and then out of Vulgar Latin in Spanish, it became Negro.
Negro.
And then out of Negro, meaning black, out of Negro, it then became anglicized to be the N with the double G ending in R.
Mm.
But the sound is a beautiful sound. And when I would go and I would teach this to college students, because I didn't get into high school because I didn't know if they could handle it, because then they say, oh, Brother Kaba said I could say it. No, I wasn't saying that you could say it. What I was trying to do is teach you the history of the word, because I also wanted you to understand that that word, just like the swastika, that was once a beautiful symbol, became a horror symbol for certain people,
Mm.
including black people, because I really don't think people have studied exactly what happened in Germany with
Right.
Adolf Hitler. The first persons that were murdered were the black people,
That's
Right.
right.
First.
because he was upset. Remember, at World War One, the United States didn't get into it until very late. But the idea of the Caribbean islands, the English-speaking islands, the French-speaking islands, even the
Yes, sir.
Spanish-speaking islands,
Yes, sir.
they were all involved in World War One. We didn't get involved until the very end in 1919. But with all the black people that came in, with all of our fighting Magi ability, warrior status, black folk were decorated.
Mm.
Many African Americans, foundational black Americans that had been there, decided they were going to stay. Because why are they going to come back to America and be treated like this when they're treated like heroes in Europe?
That's
Right.
right.
And that's what Hitler had a problem with. Hitler had a problem with the black folk that stayed. That's why Hitler wasn't creating a new religion. He was creating a new race, the so-called Aryan race.
Mm.
He didn't have a problem with religion. He had a problem with the black folk that were in Europe, because he felt they were going to make the bloodline impure. That's why he had the blonde, the blue-eyed, the one that was supposed to be the standard beauty symbol.
Brother Kaba, one thing that he did to black populations that he didn't do to the other populations that he targeted was that he made them infertile
Mm.
and made them sterile.
Mhm.
And that's a sign in itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is what we face as a people. We don't understand our history. So the word itself is not a bad word. It's what was done to it that made it a bad word.
Made it tainted.
It did, just like the swastika. The swastika is not looked upon the way it used to be looked upon in the ancient world. That was a sacred symbol. It was both scientific and sacred. But when a dirty person did dirty things with a beautiful thing, what was beautiful became dirty.
Right.
And that's the same way with the word,
Interesting.
the N word. It was a beautiful word that brought power, that brought a power within you. Ungar. There's a strength in that when you sound it, and the way the phonons, the words come out of your mouth, it impacts your nervous system. It impacts your muscular system. It impacts your skeletal system. It impacts your neurons in your brain.
Wow.
Mm.
And while I tell our young people, because our young people, I'm careful when I say this, but they're bringing it back to the where it used to be.
Mm.
Because they're using it as a term of endearment, but they were around elders that saw their families murdered by that word.
Mhm.
That's right.
You see, just like the SWAT sticker. No matter how you might want to explain how beautiful that sign is, there are people in generations that suffered because of that symbol. Because every time they were hurt or whatever, murdered or whatever, that symbol was in their face. Every time someone was going to rape our people, hurt our people, murder our people, that word was used on us. So the epigenetics made it bad.
Mm.
But it really is not a bad word. It's a beautiful word that was dirtied by dirty demons.
Wow.
Brother Kaba, and speaking of DNA genetics and our young people, one of your books that I want to definitely uplift is Carbon Before Melanin, the creators on Earth. Is there a significance correlation between carbon and plasma? Because several plasma centers have been placed in our Black communities,
Right.
and our youth, Black um, boys and girls, have been selling their plasma for means of money. What are your thoughts in regards to that and the importance of plasma as our Black, for the sake of our Black people? And why is it not important to sell our DNA? I know you talked about it. You shedded some light on plasma, but I really want to go into that piece where if it can be correlated. I don't know if it is, but the carbon and the plasma.
I think that carbon, let me step back. Plasma, melatonin, and serotonin to me are all the same thing.
Okay.
It's artificial.
Okay.
Ain't nothing like the real thing. You can't sell plasma.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
You
Okay.
can sell the blood where the plasma resides.
Okay.
But plasma is not something you can transfer and it does anything to. That's why everybody's telling people now, don't take no more melatonin. Because the chemicals that are being used to produce the false melatonin to put you to sleep. And look at what melatonin does. Everything that Black folk got is what melatonin does. It puts you to sleep because Black folk don't have any problem going to sleep. Give us a good meal and itis kicks in. We don't have a problem going to sleep.
All right, good book.
Yeah. We're gone. Okay. It impacts aging. And it impacts reproduction.
Wow.
Melatonin is a hormone released in the brain in the absence of the sun. Serotonin is a hormone that is released in the presence of the sun. When your body is manufacturing serotonin in the presence of the sun, it is not only bathing your body with those things necessary to live a healthy life with higher thoughts, but it also is preparing your body to produce melatonin at night. When you in the absence of the sun, when you are producing melatonin in the absence of the sun, it is allowing you to move through the sleep state in order to produce serotonin during the day. Let me give you a botanical analogy to this. In America, there is a concept known as the Three Sisters. And this is something that George Washington Carver saved this country because of. You have this idea of the Three Sisters: squash, corn, and beans. When you plant beans, now I'm going to paraphrase the story because I'm not quite sure the sequence of it. It's just I know that it's squash, corn, and beans.
Yes, sir.
Let's Let me just give you the idea. You could be more accurate when you see what I'm saying.
Mhm.
When you're growing squash in the earth in relationship to the sun, the squash grows a crop of squash, but it is also the nutrients necessary to bring forward the corn, the maize, which is the next crop.
Yes, sir.
When you're growing the corn in the ground, it brings forward the necessary nutrients to grow the beans. So there's a cycle. It's called the three sisters: squash, corn, bean.
Mm.
The process of doing that is called photovoltaics. I'm a teacher, I got to spell. PHOTO, in case anybody want to do research.
Please,
Oh, because,
yes.
Yeah.
because I'm going to tell you a story about this word after. Photovoltaics, PHOTO, photovoltaics, VOLTAIC, photovoltaics, which means the electricity that is produced by photons. Like photosynthesis is what light brings together. Photovoltaics is electricity brought together by light.
Mm.
Okay. I've been going to Dr. Sabi. Now I go to his wife's sister, my aunt. I was going to Dr. Sabi back in 1988. And Dr. Ben was doing a lecture on photovoltaics. And I, being a teacher, I raised my hand and I said, Dr. Ben, how do you spell photovoltaics? And he said, how do I know? You the teacher, you tell me. So I did my best. I said, well, can you say it again? And he said it again. And I wrote it down, and then I researched it. But that's how you spell photovoltaics. And that is what, and so the same thing with melatonin and serotonin. In our bodies, things prepare the body for the next phase.
Right.
That phase then presents for you to be able to do a better melatonin. The better melatonin is the better serotonin. The better serotonin the next night, better melatonin. Better melatonin that night, the better serotonin the next day. So it's a cycle.
Wow.
So the foods that you eat, the thoughts that you think, the music that you listen to, the people you associate with, the way in which you live your life determines the strength of your melatonin.
Wow.
And serotonin. So to go back to what you're saying, my sister, you can't sell plasma.
Mm.
And I'm going to give you another story. The Moors, when they were in Spain in 822, there was a black man that traveled to Al-Andalusia, Spain,
Yes.
Portugal,
Yes.
Moorish Spain. And he was a musician. And he was a chordophonist. In other words, he played lute, he played chords, he played guitar, thing like that.
Yes.
And the Africans had something known as the lute, L''OUD, and it had 4 strings. And each one of those strings was created, developed in relationship to the 4 hormones that's in your body, the 4 humus, blood, phlegm, mucus, and hormones. So if you had, let's say you had the flu, and you went to a doctor, Ziriab, let's say you went to Ziriab, who was the doctor that brought the lute in, they would play the strings over your body and it would open up your mucus, congestion.
Wow.
If you had blood clot, they would play the lute over your body and it would open up so that your blood could flow freely. And for the phlegm, and for the other liquid systems. But Ziriab, being the genius that he was, he added a 5th string, and that was for plasma. And that was to get the body in a mental and spiritual state. Plasma is a spiritual, ethereal water. You don't drink, like for instance, the universe, we are in an ocean of hydrogen.
Come on, beloved. Come on.
Okay, we're in this ocean, all of us together, everywhere we are.
Yes.
You go outside of our Earth, Mars, Mercury, all the whole thing, the whole universe is just one big hydrogen is the only atom that exists. If
Mm.
you fuse two hydrogen atoms, you get a helium atom. If you
Yes, sir.
fuse three hydrogen atoms, you get lithium.
Mm,
If you fuse six, you
come
get
on.
carbon.
Yes, sir.
But everything that exists is only in multiplication of hydrogen, which is number one.
Mm.
And that within that hydrogen, there is an animating force that brings life,
Mm.
and that is plasma. But that's a
Mm.
cosmic liquid.
Yes.
You can't buy that.
Mm.
It's like trying to teach Soul Train. It's like Soul Train trying to teach people on American Bandstand how to dance. It ain't gonna happen.
But Brother Kaba, it's knowing the essence of a thing, because
Yes,
our ancient ancestors there in Kemet, as they called the waters of Nun
yes,
in the universe, so they also did in the what has been generally called the Hapi, or what today we know as the Nile Valley,
yes, yes,
the waters there. And so, as it is above, it is below,
yes,
as it is here on earth.
yes. The law of correspondence
Yes, sir.
in the Kabbalion. Can't you see there are certain things that people who are very materialistic believe that you can buy everything,
Mm.
but there are certain things you can't buy.
Mm.
You got to be. It's something
Mm.
that you are. What gives us our flavor, what gives us our flair,
Right.
Come on.
that's something you can't buy. We just got it. We got it. We got it. And if we understood that that is what the greatest challenge is with them, they who would wish to oppress us, and see, it's for us, it's just something that's so natural.
Right, 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 right.
We don't know how jealous people are of what we got. Okay, and I'm talking about, coming up out of the Bronx and Manhattan,
Yes, sir.
myself, and I'm sure all of us together, with everything that we go through, we know how to party.
Oh,
We know how to have a good time. To think of all we've been through, and we still can do that, that's powerful.
That's God speaking.
Yes, it's just the flavor that we have, that we just
Right.
move through the thing. I mean, I could give 20 brothers the same fitted hat, and every one of them would wear it differently.
Everybody.
Some to the
Everybody.
back, some to the side, some leave the tag on,
Hmm.
some put it up behind the head, some put it down below the eyes.
Yep, 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 yep.
It's just what we do, and that's with everything that we have. Same thing with our sneakers. The things that we do with the laces of our, I can break it down with the children in a way that it is just something that we have. We just have it.
Right. That's right.
And because we have it, and because it comes so natural, we don't perceive that other people don't have it. But more than that, more dangerous is that we don't perceive that other people want it.
Mm.
and that's why we give it away in some cases.
Yes. And in many ways, what they say is, if I can't have it, you can't have it.
Mm.
So that's why they gun down the brothers in the street. That's why they treat our sisters the way they do. Because whether, Abi Odun, one of the last poets, I used to him to our district to teach writing to the children in middle school.
It's beautiful.
Abi Odun, one of the powerful last poets,
Yes, sir.
called him Dune. And one time we had a workshop, like an assembly program, where Dune came in to talk to the children. And Abi Odun told them, the students, he said, you don't realize how great you are. He said, there are people around the world. He said, I travel around the world. Last poets go around the world. We play everywhere. We play where people don't even speak English, but they know every word of our songs.
Right.
He said, you don't understand how powerful you are. You don't understand how they watch you. He said, in fact, if you were to go out tomorrow and buy a pair of sneakers and put the sneakers under your bed and you go out wearing the box that the sneakers came in, 3/4 of the youth in the world would be wearing boxes on their feet tomorrow.
That's right.
Because we bring the value.
We don't realize that. The whole time they are making us feel less variable or less valuable, the more they are fragile. They're insecure in our presence. Have you ever gone on the elevator and everybody stopped talking?
All
You
the
know the
time.
reason why they do that is because your melanin takes up the light.
My God.
Melanin attracts and captures light. When you walk on an elevator with unmelanated people, and I'm not just speaking about the skin melanin,
Right.
because the one thing about carbon before melanin that I was really trying to get us to understand is that African come in all shades.
Right.
From the northern part of Africa to the southern part of Africa. When you look at the Khoisan people, they are like what's called a potato chip brown kind of complexion. There are people, the black woman can produce every type of human that exists on the planet, but no other group could produce the black child.
Facts.
That's right.
This is just, and it's science. It's not emotional. And I would never try to speak to us in a way that we deal with superiority or inferiority.
No.
Because I would not do to our people what was done to their people, because they're in for a very rude awakening very soon. Their time is up.
Sir.
You know, the Indo-European peoples have never been able to maintain a civilization more than 500 years.
Right.
If you go back to, let's say, the Persians, when the Persians came into Africa, particularly the 25th dynasty, 525 BC, by 331 BC, the Greeks were in there. So that's like a little over 180 years. So from 331, and then the Romans took over in 30 BC. So, you know, I mean, look at what that is.
Right.
A little over 300 years.
That's right.
And then the Roman Empire existed from 30 BC to about 426 BC. So that's like 456 years, give or take. And then Europe went into Dark Ages. And it wasn't until black folk came in 711, really 710 if you think of Tarif, but Tariq going in 711, July, stayed in Europe, brought civilization to Europe from 711 to 1492. And then out of their exposure to these Africans, they created what we now today call the Western civilization. I call it the Oman Empire. And now this Dali house is falling. And so the idea is that we have to get ourselves together. Because every time they have fallen, we have always been what brought it back. Always. When that bubonic plague hit Europe, you know, like 2/3 of Europeans died out. We saved 1/3.
We taught them sanitation, Brother Kaba.
That's it. We brought in soap. And then we said, after you clean your funky self, you got to disinfect yourself. So we brought in a spiritual water known as alcohol. So they call it alcohol. To disinfect the body. And then we brought in different types of vegetables and fruits. We brought in the Valencia orange. We brought in the strawberry. We brought in terrace farming, where they learned how to be able to grow crops on many different levels. We brought in the first music conservatory. We created the universities. And how did they thank us?
My God. The same way they're thanking us now.
Exactly. But you see, right now it's over.
Right.
It's late. And if you get an article written by Sabrina Tavernisi, It was written, I believe the date was the 19th of June. No. Yeah, well, 19th of June, 2020, or it's the 20th of June, 1919, one of them, but it's by Sabrina Tavernise, Tavernise. It's a New York Times article. And basically, the New York Times article is saying that out of the 50 states, 26 states, white people are dying out. And when you get upset because of regentrification
Yes,
and you
sir.
see people coming into your neighborhood, it is because there are cities that are dying in places like Iowa and North Dakota. They're dying out. They're boarding up the cities. This article will tell you this. She'll even show you a map where there are more white people dying than being born. This is why they offer Americans $25,000 to have $5,000 to have children.
Right.
Wow.
They're doing the same thing in Hungary,
Mm-hmm.
in Europe. See, this is the problem. They're between a rock and a hard place. The concept is the fact that they need immigrants in Europe and in America. Remember what happened in Springfield when they said that the brothers and sisters from Haiti were eating the cats and the dogs?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. They literally were dying out as a city, Springfield. They brought our brothers and sisters from Haiti to Springfield to work to become a tax base for them.
Brother Kaba, some of my students' families moved up to that area.
Okay.
I bear witness to that.
Yes. They brought them up for a tax base because they're dying out. And without a tax base, your city not going to run.
Mm.
Throughout Europe, Italy, Poland,
Mm-hmm.
they're dying out, and without a tax base. So there's the insecure ones that don't want melanated people there,
Right.
and then there's the economists that's saying we have to have them here. And so there's a war going on. The same thing here in America. Do you hear all the things they're saying? Forget the strawberries, because if you don't have brothers and sisters who are coming up to work on the farms, you either not going to have strawberry, or you're going to pay a whole bunch more for the strawberry.
That's right.
And so they need immigrants as a tax base. They talk about how many billions of dollars immigrants bring into the country. And what they're doing with immigrants, when they don't come, they're going to be in very serious trouble. Well, let me just put it to you like this. They're already in trouble.
They're already in trouble.
They're already in trouble. And so this is what we are facing as a people. That's why we have to get ourselves together, because when the Dolly House fall, are we in the position to have our own political system? Do we know how to lead ourselves? Do we know how to educate ourselves? Do we know how to work the system as it relates to a legal system? Do we have the proper types of things that we need that would be in those 9 ministries?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that would be able to guide us and to lead us into this next concept that we need. And when we're talking about what we need, let's talk about security. Because if you can't defend what you got, you don't have it. You're just holding on to it until someone stronger come along and snatch it from you.
And take it away from you.
You better be able to protect it.
Brother Kaba, just in mind, because going back to something that you were talking about earlier, see, just like in Spain, when Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand took over, and they were burning the books that our ancestors wrote. They're banning books here in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my question, beloved. Because many Black educators here have raised major concern about recent curriculum reforms here in Florida, as well as initiatives outlined in what the Heritage Foundation calls Project 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Where should our focus be, beloved?
My thing is, if I were them, I would do the same thing.
Because
My
their
mother
time is
taught
running
me-
out.
Say again?
Because their time is running out.
Yeah, well, my sister, my mother used to always say to me, in order for you to defeat your enemy, you got to think like him.
Mm.
If you're confronting your enemy thinking like you ain't never gonna win.
Oh,
Come on.
If I was them, I would do the same thing.
mm.
I would ban your books. I would burn your books. I would lie, steal, and cheat
Mm.
if I thought like them.
If you thought.
See, you got to think like them in order to understand that. See, you have to understand that you are an angel living in hell.
Mm.
And even angels have to act a
Mm.
little devilish when you're in hell. The thing is, when you get back up into heaven, start acting angelic. Don't bring that devilment up to heaven. You're not going to survive as an angel in hell.
My God.
And you have to react to them. And my thing is, my response is to do, from my own personal perspective, it's what I'm doing now. I'm developing our own curriculum. Because you see, I've been to well-meaning African-centered schools, really well-meaning. But they teach African information from a European perspective.
Mm.
See, the way in which a universal mind thinks, the way in which an African mind thinks, it is not a left brain or a right brain dominant. It's whole brain.
Brain.
I'll give you an example of what I mean. When I taught first grade, and let's say I taught math,
Yes, sir.
I had the student, let's say 1 + 2 equals, 2 + 4 equals. I would give them 10 problems to solve, and then I would say, I want you to draw the problem. So they would draw 2 bananas and 4 oranges, and that would be 6 fruits. Because the left side of your brain is the analytical. That's where your mathematician is, where your scientist is. It's where your reasoning is, your left hemisphere. Your right hemisphere is where your musician is, where your artist is. The left side of your brain takes things apart. The right side of your brain puts things back together again.
Mm.
And so when I gave them that assignment to solve the problem, that's their left side of the brain. When they drew it, it was the right side of the brain. And so therefore you have a bundle of tissue that goes across the top of your head, and it joins the left and the right hemisphere. So after they solved the problem and they were going to draw it, they then moved their thought process through the corpus callosum, it's called. CORPUSCALLOSUM, corpus callosum. It connects the left and right hemisphere in the brain. If you find that you're always carrying things in your left hand, start to carry things in the right hand.
Mm.
If you're right-handed, start to write with your left hand. Because I used to have a time when I would have my students, whatever hand they dominated, we would have like 15 minutes during the day where they would write with the other hand. It was never anything important. Normally, I may give them a book and say, I want you to just copy the words on the page.
Mm.
So it would never be valued. It would never be graded. It would just be them practicing, because it's called stereognosis. 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 Stereognosis is that if you're right-handed, you normally work out of your left side of your brain. If you're left-handed, you normally work out of your right side of your brain, because it crosses over in the brain, so that the object is to become ambidextrous. Ambidextrous, because when you become ambidextrous, that means that you can use both sides.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wow.
And so when I think of where we have to go with this, there are 2 parts of the brain that you have to, because I do a whole series on brain anatomy and teaching. Because for you to teach and not know the parts of the brain is equivalent to being a brain surgeon and not knowing the parts of the brain.
Wow.
How you going to operate when you don't know the parts of it? How are you going to teach to a brain that you don't know the parts that the teaching functions of it.
That's relevant.
Exactly. There are two parts of the brain that you should be well aware of. Every teacher, even people in general. This is why I say the community, not just the children, but the community and the parents.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll give you an example. Right now, I am using a place in my brain known as the Broca system, BROCA. You are using the part of your brain known as the Wernicke system, WERNICKE. The Broca system is located in the frontal lobe of your brain. You've got 4 lobes in your brain. You got the frontal lobe, you got the parietal lobe, you got the occipital lobe, and then you have the temporal lobe. See, this is things that teachers should know. So, Brother Tony, when you ask me what we should be doing, we ought to be learning this. Because right now, I'm using the Broca system in the frontal part of my brain.
Okay.
You're using your temporal lobe in the Wernicke system. Broca system is responsible for speech production. That's where you produce your speech. What I'm doing now is talking. The Wernicke system is where you have speech comprehension. You're comprehending what I am saying. That's why they say you can't talk and listen at the same time.
That's right.
Because that means you have to use both sides of your brain. Now, there are human beings dynamic enough to be able to do it. But for the most part, most human beings cannot speak and listen at the same time because you're so focused on what you want to say, you're not thinking of comprehending what you're listening to.
Mm.
So as a teacher,
I don't know, Brother Kaba, sometimes I'm saying prayers to myself while I'm speaking to my students for them to just, when you're speaking, so redeeming to them because they keep falling into the same traps.
yes.
I'm
Absolutely.
talking to them and I'm saying a prayer at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. In fact, what you're saying to them sometimes is a prayer.
Right.
Right.
It's true. Another thing that I take teachers through is there are 2 parts. There are 3 parts of your brain. It's like a mushroom. When you think of a mushroom with a stem, that's your brain stem. It's also known as the R complex or the reptilian brain.
Yes.
That was your first brain.
Yes.
Growing out of your R complex is your limbic system.
Okay.
And growing out of your limbic system is your cerebral cortex, which is the big part of your brain.
Mm.
And while it's the youngest part of your brain, it's the biggest part of your brain, your cerebral cortex, like the mushroom. Think of the mushroom.
Mm.
The reptilian brain is that part of the brain that defends the organism. When you touch the stove and you pull back, that reflex, okay? Your reptilian brain protects the organism. Your limbic system is where you feel, and your cerebral cortex is where you think. So when you touch that stove and you pull back, your R complex says, look, you ain't got time to feel and you ain't got time to think. And a lot of times the battle is that the R complex, because it's the oldest, it tries to control everybody.
Mm.
You know, the R complex, no, hit him. You know, feel, I ain't feeling nothing. And I ain't even gonna think about it. I just want to hit him.
Right.
That's what protects you. That way, the message that you're receiving in your neurons only goes as far as the R complex, and then you react. That's reflex.
Yes, sir.
Okay. In your limbic system, you have 2 areas very important in education. You have the amygdala, AMYGDALA, and you have the hippocampus, HIPPOCAMPUS, hippocampus. Now, here's how I speak to teachers. I say, do you remember your favorite teacher? That teacher that was just, wow. Could be kindergarten, could be your coach. But there's somebody, and I always say, I hope you got somebody. That one teacher that really was, wow, you was just, that's your favorite teacher. Almost everybody. My father's favorite teacher was a kindergarten teacher. He could go back that far. Sometimes it's the third grade teacher. Some of them could be like somebody that's the nutritional staff at lunch when they come in and they say, "Hey, baby, how you doing today? Everything's all right? How you doing in school? You look so smart. I like that outfit you have on." Do you remember that person,
Mhm.
that favorite teacher that you had?
Yes, sir.
Keep that in mind because I'm gonna go back to those two parts of the brain, the amygdala and the hippocampus. The amygdala is where the house of your fears are. That's where all of your emotions are stored. Everything you have a facial expression for is housed in your amygdala. Fear, happiness, sadness, anger, shock, everything you have a facial expression for, it comes out of your amygdala.
Mm.
Okay?
Mm.
In our educational system, we normally teach to the amygdala.
Mm.
You're going to fail. You're going to go to summer school.
Mm.
Okay? All of that is teaching to the amygdala because you're teaching to the emotions. Where learning isn't something that you want to get. You get because you have to protect something that you're afraid of.
Mm. Mm.
Amygdala.
Amygdala.
Your hippocampus is where your long-term memory is stored. When I asked you about your favorite teacher, what brought that forward was your long-term memory.
Mm.
And there's a very good chance that that person that came to your mind, it was because you always felt safe in their presence.
Yep.
I often said that if Dr. Clark had been a basket weaver, I'd be on your show today talking about weaving baskets.
Mm.
I'm glad he was a history teacher. But there are people that come into your life that it's not the subject that they teach, it's just the way they are around you and how they make
Right.
you feel.
That's right.
Right.
That's what I call teaching to the hippocampus, teaching to the long-term memory. Because it's in teaching to the long-term memory that the students will always remember what you're teaching them.
Mm.
And they'll become fluent in what it is, partly because they're geniuses, but partly because of how you interacted with them. You made them want to be around you, and in so doing, making them safe, they put their guard down around you, and they were able to embrace whatever it was that you were teaching.
Mm.
These are the types of things that we have to go into our classroom with. These are the types of things that, unbeknownst to us, we're always threatening our children, whether we realize it or not.
Right.
Because the system makes you do it.
Right.
I was the type of teacher that was in the principal's office as much as Kwame was. Because Kwame used to look at me and say, "Brother Booker T, you here again?" Because I didn't care. And I don't know if it's my scorpion nature. I don't know if it was the creator and ancestors guiding me, letting me know, I got your back. Teach them about the truth. Tell them about George Washington. I got your back, no matter what. When you get down to the principal's office, the principal's just going to, tell you, "Look, Booker T, come on. You know Miss William is going to report you. So why you want to go through this?" And I always say, for the children.
Mm.
It's true.
I don't care. Because once I was tenured, there was nothing they could do with me anyway.
Mm. Mm.
I used to always ask them, "Will this impact my paycheck?" No, I don't care. Gee, it don't make no difference to me. But again, at the same time, I attempted to do it with dignity, respect, and integrity.
Mm.
And I could always back up what I said.
Right.
It's just that I said it and it made people uncomfortable.
Right.
But I used to tell them, I'm glad you're uncomfortable. Because if you're in America right now and you're comfortable, I'm uncomfortable.
Mm.
Beloved.
You ain't
Yes.
supposed to be uncomfortable. You're not supposed to be comfortable. No
Right.
black man, black woman in America should be comfortable.
Not
I know.
one.
That's right.
Not with what's going on here. We have
Right.
work to do,
A lot of work to do.
but it can be done. And that's another thing that I tell us and I tell our children. We are going to make, Dr. King was right. We are going to make it to the promised land.
Mm.
But I got good news and bad news. The good news is we are going to make it to the promised land. The bad news
That
is,
is a lot of us ain't gonna make it.
there we go. I don't even have to say it now, Sister
No.
Kalila, you know. A lot of us are not going to make it because of the options that we're choosing in our priorities
Mm.
and the things that we're looking for. Money has its place. They say money is the root of all evil, but money is also the root of our emancipation and liberation. I'm going to do an Indiegogo soon to raise money to go around the country and teach. My son has outlined 65 different cities that we want to go to that we've been to. And we have to raise the kind of money to be able to travel with the expenses and all the other things that we need. Money is going to be very important to make this happen. I will only be able to go as far as what I can raise in my finances to get where I need to go. And my thing is, if you eat the king's meat, you're going to dance to his tune. I am not going to ask other people. This is a project that we must put together.
Well, let's get this started, because I want you in my city, but I want to first.
You're going to Miami too.
Okay,
Absolutely.
we can agree to disagree, but it's both cities.
He's coming to both.
Oh,
Yeah.
We ain't going to agree to disagree. He's
but
coming
listen,
to both.
Absolutely.
This is what I want to say before we close the show, because we had to close. This is not a question. This is just a very strong comment that I wanted to make before we close the show. I wanted to let you know how important you are in my life and how very influential that you were, especially in a time when I was trying to find my reason of existence. Besides the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, because I was born in the Nation of Islam, right? So those are always like my pillars, right? You were one of my inspirations. At night, I used to stay up 3-4 o'clock in the morning just studying your YouTube channels, and I mean all the way back from when I was like 19, 20, and now currently, you are a part of my rebirth and my awareness of existence. So I wanted to just tell you that I love you, and I wanted to give you your flowers while you live, for just being who you are, for being steadfast,
Beautiful.
and for living in your truth. And I have so much love and so much respect for you.
My sister. Wow, powerful. My sister, I love you too. I respect you. I honor you. And I thank you for that, because there are times as a human being, when you do this work, you sort of kind of wonder, are you on the right track?
Oh my God, you're so on the right track.
You know what I'm saying? But as a human being, there are moments that you wonder, you think as a human being.
Right.
Because we're all born with a Messiah and a Judas.
Wow.
Judas got to be there.
And that's it. Well, you cannot have a Messiah if you don't have a Judas.
That's right.
Okay, and that's the Asarian drama.
Right.
Okay, that is the story of life. You have, my grandson today was doing a thing, and he chose to do something on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And he called me up. He said, "Grandpa, can you talk to me about Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde?" Because half of his body was Mr. Hyde. He just painted, he had this little thing where he just put part of his head was, looking like Mr. Hyde, and the shirt was all tattered and torn. The other side was all neat and clean, and it was who he was. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. He said, "But can you tell me the story from your perspective about Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde?" And I told him the story of, because I've watched the one with Frederick March, 1931, 1944 with Spencer Tracy. I've read the book. And I've often realize that we are all born with both good and evil. And what Dr. Jekyll was trying to get people to know that they were rejecting, because they were very religious, in the sense that they just believed that the devil was outside of the human person.
Right.
And what Dr. Jekyll was saying is, no, we have the devil within us.
Right.
And
You're looking the wrong, you're looking out instead of looking in.
Exactly. And therefore, you can always put the blame on something outside.
Right. Easy.
But when you look inside, and what I was telling my grandson is that we all have Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And I said, it's like he would drink a potion to prove, because really what he wanted, he was a very good man. He was a good doctor. He used to work with poor people. When you look at the story, everything he did was very kind, very generous, very gentle, and he was just a very profound worker. And what he wanted to prove is that you could control the demons within.
Mm.
And what happened was that he got in too deep.
Mm.
And the potion, it got to a point where he didn't have to drink the potion no more. Dr. Hyde would just come up.
Mm.
In the beginning, he had to drink the potion to bring it through.
Right.
But then it got to the point in the story where he didn't have to drink nothing.
Right.
All of a sudden, he's turning into Mr. Hyde. And that's who we are as people.
Mm.
And we're all born with a Messiah and a Judas. The Messiah is born to fulfill your divine destiny. The Judas is born within you to make sure that you don't.
Mm.
Wow.
Now, when you look at the story of Christianity, the real hero of Christianity is not Christ.
Mm.
It's Judas. Because if there was no Judas, Christ wouldn't have been betrayed and he would have lived a long, happy life.
Right. Right. And not fulfilling his destiny.
Exactly. You see, Judas was the hero as it relates to the development of the religion of Christianity. That's not the African story. That's something separate, because in the African story, it was the son of Asar that resurrected his father.
Right.
Mm.
You see, and when you're dealing with the Christian Mass, because I grew up Roman Catholic, when you're dealing with the Mass and you have the altar and the priest is doing all of the ritual on the altar, turning the water and wine into blood of Jesus and
Yes, sir.
the host into the body. Well, the wine represents the earthly condition and the water represents the spiritual condition. So when you said as above, so below, when you mix water and wine, that's life. And when you're looking at the body, you're looking at a certain concept as it relates to the physicalness of the actual body. And so that when you're dealing with that mass, with the liturgy, where the priest is doing all of the prayers and everything over, actually what's happening is that Asar is actually dying and the son is resurrecting. So that altar is the sarcophagus of Asar, the father, and it's the cradle of Heru. And that's us. Think of the mummy. Think of the wrapping of the mummy. Okay? That is likened to the natural process of the caterpillar. The life of the caterpillar born is to get him or herself near a very fertile tree with thick, beautiful leaves to eat. Because it is in the eating of the leaves that is going to allow the caterpillar to spin the proper cocoon. If the caterpillar is in an area where there's not strong leaves, then they're not going to be able to spin the cocoon, and chances are they will die in the cocoon, the weak cocoon, and never be able to come forward. But if they have eaten the proper leaves, then they can spin the proper cocoon or chrysalis, and they will be able to transform themselves into a butterfly. No longer being earthbound, but being flight-bound. No longer eating leaves, but the nectar and the sweetness of the plants. And so it became symbolic in terms of the mummy being able to come forward that way and understand. And that's who we are. Judas's job is to die. The Messiah's job is to resurrect itself. That's who we
Wow.
are. And that's our life. That's our purpose, is to, when you talk about the leaves that the caterpillar eats, associating with the right people, eating the proper foods, caring for other people, loving other people, developing a life system that is conducive to the perpetuation of the beauty of life. Our Creator did not put us on this earth to have to go through this.
Mm, mm, mm,
No human being should ever worry about if they're going to eat a meal,
mm, mm.
or if they have the proper clothing, or if they have the proper shelter, or if they feel safe. Nobody should have to live like this. And there was a time in Africa where we didn't have these problems.
Mm, mm.
We're not supposed to live like this. This is not why we were put here. Yet we have a Judas amongst us, a betrayer of the human family, that has put people through very unfortunate situations. They've created an illusion called money. And they've created a dominance over that financial material wealth so that that controls people's lives.
Wow. Well, speaking of money, we got to raise some. So here is my brother's Cash App.
Yes.
Here's his Zelle information. For those of you from the listening of my voice, you know, how can I put this? I know you heard something today that was true and good for our Black people.
Absolutely.
And if you have not, you are under a rock of the devil itself. It's just no possible way you, back to our teachers, you either deaf, dumb, or blind. I'm just being honest. So please, our brother is trying to reach, you said 65 cities?
65 cities.
And it could be plus.
It could be.
With
I
your
will go as
donation.
far as the finances bring us.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm going to start an Indiegogo. I'm going to start all of these other cash apps and Zelle. The money that we raise is going towards the development of our community and the education of our community. Family, I know how to do this. I know how to bring this to our people in a way that they would be able to go from that. There's a segment of what I'm doing where I want to teach our parents how to read to children, how to read books to children, because there are 4 steps in literacy. The first step is listening. That's why the oral tradition was so important. After listening is speaking. After speaking is reading, and after reading is writing. There's 4 steps. The first step is listening. So even when I had a 5th grade student that they said couldn't read, I would read to them and they would listen, and I would speak to them, and then I would show them how the word is formed as it relates to symbols. Because it's not about you can read or can't read. Reading is decoding symbols. Okay? If I were to take a 1st grade test on the pyramids of Kemet in the German language, I probably wouldn't do well. Not because I don't know about the pyramids, it's that I can't decode German.
Right.
So that I want to show our parents and our community how to read to children, how to develop. The first thing you're supposed to do is analyze the front and back cover of a book. Before you even get into the book, you read about the front and back cover.
Right.
So that's part of what I'd like to do when I visit our communities. I'd like to have a segment where I'm going to have parents, where I'm going to show them. In fact, I'll even read to the children and demonstrate how to read to children. This is what I want to raise. And so whatever you support me with goes into this process. And we're going to start in 2026. We're lining up the places now. And we're just going in. We're not going out like this, family.
That's right.
You know, I'm not playing now. I'm taking all my cumulative knowledge that I've gained over the years in my education from 1977. And now I'm going on the road. And we're going to spread the knowledge.
Wow.
That's right.
Praises be to Allah.
It's awesome.
Listen,
It's awesome.
you got mines. I'm telling you. You got mine. Listen, I'm going to talk to my hierarchies here in Jacksonville. I'm pretty sure that Brother Tony is going to talk to.
I'm gonna be talking to a whole bunch of folks.
Right. Listen,
Mm-hmm.
it's a must.
Yes.
It's definitely a must. Because the thing is, we know, we just haven't applied.
Yeah.
Brother Kaba, it's just we cannot be of this approach like, oh, they just changed the curriculum. What are we gonna do? Oh, they just did this other thing. What are we gonna do? We're gonna teach our own.
That's
Right.
it.
Exactly what we have been doing.
That's it.
And if we have not been doing it, we have to learn how.
That's right.
Brother Kaba, I'm so happy to hear that I'm in so much good company with you, because I reformed the African American Voices curriculum in Miami-Dade, and guess what they did to that curriculum?
Mm-hmm.
They just chopped it up.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
My thing is the community now. My thing is going into the community. I am not. It's
No.
not that if somebody invited me in, I would not go. But my focus is our community.
That's right.
My focus is bookstores. My
Yes,
focus is community centers. My focus is where the people are, because this is what's going to make the difference. It's simple like that. That's where I am now in my life. That's where I want to be in my life right now. And I think that this is where the Creator has placed me. Everything I've ever done in my life, I think it was preparing me for what Harun Nesset and I are about to start to do now.
So,
Beautiful.
Praise
we're
be
here
to
to back
I
you
got
up.
it. I know how to do it.
Listen, and I know you know how to do it.
We're going to put some things in motion, beloved.
I know it. I know it.
Absolutely.
You know how they say, I believe? No, I know. I
Mhm.
know, brother. I know you know.
Sister Khalila, I apologize. My power went out over here for a few minutes. that, we announced we made the announcement for our audience to support Brother
Yes,
Kaba.
yes, it's right at the
We have
bottom
the
here.
screen.
Yes, sir.
All
Yes,
right,
sir. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
And also, if you have the time, if you can come back for a part two, because
Mhm.
I will. We have more questions. Just some of the questions with your divine, insight, that third eye. You were just hitting our questions like home runs. I was like, okay, he just answered that one and didn't know that question was even on our talking point. And it was like, okay, exit that out, exit. So we were doing a lot of exiting out too, while you were just knocking all of the questions out that we didn't even ask you, but you just it was it's just the synergy is real. But if you will be honored, if we will be honored for you to come back on for a part two. Um,
Absolutely.
Praises be to Allah. All
Thank you.
right. So,
We will make that happen. Inshallah.
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 Inshallah. Yes, sir. Yes,
God
sir.
willing.
Yes, sir. So please, this is not the time to hold your pockets.
No, we want to
This
be
is
in
the
full.
time to release. Release, release, release.
So the website, I can get books as well that
Yes.
you've written.
In my website, kabakamene.com, it'll take you to Gumroad, which is my distributor. You put your email in and you'll get a free e-course, 6-day e-course and study guide.
Awesome.
The study guide, I have an expanded version of it, but that's something separate. But the study guide that I'm sharing with the community is the most important document that I've produced for me. And that's
Wow.
why it's free. It's 44 pages.
Mm.
Every subject area that I teach, the African origins of humanity, Africans in Europe, Africans in America, Africans in Asia, all of that, melanin, all of that. The books are listed, the page numbers are listed, because I'm not so much into book clubs as I am into theme clubs.
Mm.
And the idea of studying themes and not necessarily just reading a book. So that, for instance, like Shabaka Stone.
Yes, sir.
Shabaka Stone, I encourage you to read pages 139 to 151 in Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
then
sir.
I encourage you to go to Egypt Revisited and read the article by Jacques Sabibsi, and then the article that follows by Dr. Theophile Obenga.
Yes, sir.
And then I encourage you to read chapter 17, Does a African Philosophy Exist, in the book Civilizational Barbarism by Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
That's a theme. Like, I don't tell you to read all of Stolen Legacy, all of Egypt Revisited, although there are other chapters that you would read, but not in that theme. The theme of Shabaka Stone or the Memphite text are those 4 readings. So I'm thematic because we need to study and discuss themes, not so much books. Books have their place, but I like themes as it relates to curriculum development. And in my study guide, you'll see what I'm talking about. Page numbers are there. Themes are there. The authors are there. And that's my study guide, 44 pages. You got the information right up there. That's free. That's my most important. When I did Hidden Colors, a lot of young people came up to me because Tariq Nasheed had put Hidden Colors up on World Star Hip Hop. And you know who's
Right.
hip hop people come. I mean, I thought this was about Nicki Minaj.
Right.
I thought this was about hip hop, right? But now that you got me open now about Africans in America, give me a book to read. And I realized that for some of us who have this information, it was nice to watch. But for some of us who had no idea about this, particularly our young people, it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
Come on.
There was a lot of information there that they were just not ready for, considering they thought they was going to talk about Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne. Okay, now you're talking some heavy. So they want, and I said to myself, I think I need to go home, close down for 2 weeks, and I collected all of my work. I put it in skeleton or study guide form, and that's my study guide. It's my answer to the community. Because when you talk like we talk, you better be able to back it up.
That's right.
See, because I believe in shutting down rooms. You shut a room down by science. With a preponderance of overwhelming evidence, I will shut you down. I'm not going to argue with you, because Dr. Clark say in order to have a debate, you got to have 2 sides, and you ain't got a side.
That's right.
Because when you argue with somebody that don't have a side, you give them the right to be able to present their information that is fallacious. I'm not going to give you a chance. I'm going to shut you down before you open your mouth, and I'm going to do it through science. Science is knowledge and wisdom and understanding. We can do this. We're doing it. I get messages on Instagram. I get messages on Facebook. People say, I didn't know Kaba Hiawatha Kamene, but you remind me of my 2nd grade teacher, Mr. Coleman. Is that you? I said, that's me. There are students that I've met in the street that have told me things that I have done for them as it relates to just who they are. And when I did what I did, I never did it thinking it was overwhelming. I just did it because of one thing. And this is what can help our children. Love them and respect them and see them as you tomorrow. And that's who you are today. That's the key. We must love our people, but to do that, we must love ourselves.
I think that's a beautiful way to close out.
Brother Kaba, I'm telling you, people are just texting me right now. It's like, okay, listen, stop it. Don't do it. Look, what sister said, I had to contact you in private. The homework that the brother just gave, I never thought that would be so hard.
Wow.
Become hard for us.
I'm flowing.
Yeah.
This is what the sister just wrote me.
Love the size of your nose, love the shape of your lips, love the melanin in your skin, every kink in your hair. Love yourself, because the Creator made you that way, and the Creator don't make mistakes.
Wow.
Love yourself And then we can love each other.
All right.
That
Okay. I want to ask you, was that your closing remark? Because I think that was that was a mic drop for me.
We could do
But I know you have so much more.
Yes, yes, but that's for part 2.
part
Oh.
2, Sister Kalila.
And part 3 and part 4. And when I come down there to
Yes,
Jacksonville and
yes,
to Miami and to Broward
sir.
County.
yes,
We're going to make it happen.
That's right. And we're going
Allah's permission.
and we just going to chase them out of town.
Oh.
Because the Judas falls down 9 times, but the Messiah rises 10.
Oh.
We
Now
are Neo, Brother Kaba.
that was the
What
mic
you
drop
talking
right
about?
there. That was the mic drop. I'm sorry. That was the mic drop. That was the mic drop. Okay, I'm gonna turn this show over to you, Brother Tony.
Beloved family, if you enjoyed tonight's program and all the other programs we brought over to you, of course, what we do is through the kindness of our heart. We love our people. We want the very best for them. But the streaming service that we use, they don't say, "Oh, you all are so nice. We're just gonna let you stream for free." No, it don't happen like that. We're asking for your support here tonight. If we could please make any kind of contribution, it doesn't matter how small. It doesn't matter how big. We're not going to refuse a large donation. Any donation we are very grateful for to help us further this program that we have called the 7th Region Coalition to Help Save Lives, Thursday Night Talks. We thank you for any support that you're able to give, and may Allah God continue to bless you all and your families.
All right. So the floor is yours, Brother Tony. What
All
we
right.
gonna do?
Well, we want we're gonna be coming back in just a couple of weeks, beloved family. But until then, please continue to tune in to our programs. Go back and revisit some of our programs in the past. Stay tuned to what we have to bring over to you in the very near future. Pay attention to us on Facebook and also on YouTube.
And YouTube.
And
Definitely.
also YouTube.
This show.
What happened tonight, we already know that there was some tampering with
Right.
taking place. So definitely stay. But even Sister Kalila, YouTube is also owned by the enemy. So, there are other platforms if anything were to happen. But just stay tuned to us on social media. May Allah God continue to bless you all and your families. Stay tuned. Just in a couple of weeks, we're going to be coming back with another program. Assalamu alaikum.